Hey, folks.
Hey,
Thank you so much for joining us today. Gigi, always a pleasure to see you.
it's always a pleasure to see you too. Did you almost call me Geeky?
I
Is that
almost
what
did, but
just
I caught
happened?
myself out of fear
It's
of catching
okay.
your wrath. I mean, you
It
got the octopus
happens.
costume and all. I don't want to
I
catch
know.
one of those 8 hands.
I know. My tentacles are put away for the day. I am
Okay.
very excited about today's episode. How's it going over there?
It is going fantastic, Gigi. And for folks that are joining us and may not have seen us, my name is Adrian San Miguel. I'm a principal partner enterprise architect here at AWS. By day, by night, and often, around Halloween or whenever I'm feeling kind of rambunctious, I jump on here on AWS On Air with my good friend Gigi. Gigi, say hi.
Hey everyone, my name is Gigi Behringer. I'm a senior product manager here at AWS, and in every ounce of free time I can, I try to host on this show, AWS On Air, our Friday weekly show, if you haven't seen us before, where we learn about what's new on AWS in general, and specifically what's new with one of the product managers who released this launch. So today we have a really exciting show. We have a live demo, as always, because we are live,
Mhm.
and I think it's going to be great. What are your most, I guess, what are you most looking forward to today, Adrian?
Well, it's a great question, Gigi. I'm really looking forward to understanding how the quality of life for developers and for users is going to be impacted by this. And for those that may not know, this is the show that we put together based off of your feedback in our surveys. Things that you asked in the Twitch chat and anywhere else you may be catching us today. We're featured in the US Hero Spot. We're also on 2 different channels. So if you have a question, comment, feedback, think that my shirt is pretty hideous, or you think Nick's hat is the worst thing you've ever seen, by all means, we want to hear about it. That feedback directly goes
Yes.
into what we put together for programming to help you understand the thing that you want to know a little bit better. For me personally,
Exactly.
I grew up in the data center. I have an ethos in hosting, engineering, architecture, and being able to improve the quality of life is pretty fantastic. And as Gigi mentioned, this is one of our weekly live shows, and this show is help. We really want to go out and help you get those itchy questions that have been noodling around the back of your mind to get those pulled out. But it's not the only show that we've got, Gigi, is it?
No, we have so many shows throughout the week. We have things like, let's see, we have our sports show with Nick, our producer, which is one of the rare times that you get to see Nick host a show instead of be behind the scenes and get trash talked by us hosts. We also have game day with AM, where they go through a live game day and play the competition for different ways to see how you can break AWS, fix AWS, and get points along the way. We've got a show focused on startups. We've got a deep dive show that oftentimes takes topics from this show, and then next week, we'll deep dive into the back end side of things. What else do we have?
Well, we also hear word that as of 12:01 a.m. today, you can start hearing the rustling of jingle bells and potentially might even hear All I Want for Christmas Is You if you listen close enough. At least that's the word on the
Ooh.
street.
I did wake up and I had a little bit more glow today because I get to put Christmas decorations out very soon. So, speaking of Christmas,
Mhm.
let's get this show rolling. You
Let's
saw
do
on
it.
the bottom, we have a survey that'll pop up. You also have many, many shows. So, click the links, take the survey that we're going to keep putting in the chat, go see what other shows we have, and also keep listening because I think it's time to bring on our first guest.
Yeah, by all means, let's do it.
Hey,
Hey,
Matt,
Hey,
Matt,
Yvonne.
how
how's
you
it going?
doing?
Good. Yeah. Is my sound good?
Yeah, you sound
Okay.
amazing. You
Cool.
And
I'm
sound like
excited to be
Christmas
on.
cheer.
and while
Just
you're here,
excited.
and while you're here, you sound so wonderful. How about you tell us what your favorite candy is, and also chat. Let us know what your favorite candy is, and if it's raisins, that's cool because that's probably one of mine. I have zero sweet tooth.
My favorite candy. Maybe like those sour belts, but
Okay.
what flavor? Like the blue and yellow ones?
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're an OG.
That's an
if you get the-
interesting choice.
Well,
you're
no,
an
I
OG,
like
yeah.
soury. Yeah, I don't really like chocolatey candy.
Okay.
Mm,
I like the
Well,
okay.
belts.
bonus
Uh,
points for referring to them by the color instead of the flavor name because everybody knows the
Yes,
rules. You're untrustworthy if you actually give it the government flavor name.
exactly. It's
So,
only the blue ones and the yellow ones. Um, anyways, aside from candy, what else do you like to talk about, Matt? Maybe could you give us a just quick hello about what you work on day to day and who you are
yeah,
and why you're joining us?
yeah,
please.
sure. So I'm one of the product managers on the AWS Amplify team. So I've been focused on Amplify hosting. I've been working at AWS for quite a while. Actually, I've been on the Amplify team for about 5 years. So I focused on like the front end framework side of things, and then spent the last year more focused on the Amplify hosting offering. So yeah, I'm super excited to talk about like one of our new features that we just launched.
That is a mouthful, but
Yeah.
the other thing that you didn't say,
It
the
is.
other thing you didn't say that you kind of
What?
left
It
out, you're
is.
kind of selling yourself short. You used to be a DA, and I remember you from back in the day and working
Oh,
with that.
Yes.
yes, I used to work at Twitch. I worked at Twitch for a few years on the developer platform. So yeah, it's been a while since I've been on Twitch. We used to have a monthly developer show, a bit similar to this.
Awesome, awesome. So, what
Yeah.
do you got to talk to us about? Because I heard a little bit of a rumbling that you may have cooked up something in a lab a little bit to help kind of really scratch that itch of the average developer.
Yeah. So maybe I could just start and first maybe just give a bit of a background on Amplify hosting, just in
Please.
case folks
Great.
haven't used it. Yeah. I don't know if either of you have used Amplify, by the way.
Mhm.
In a
Okay.
minute,
Sounds
yeah.
like you have. Yeah. So Amplify is an AWS service that is targeted at front end developers. So if you're a front end developer and you have a web app and you want to host the web app, you can use Amplify hosting. So it makes it really easy for developers to just like connect their GitHub repo or their GitLab repo, and you can have your site deployed in a few seconds. So if you have like a React app or a Next.js app, it's super easy to deploy. And also the other sort of part of Amplify, I should say, is also sort of this backend libraries where you can kind of plug in and do things like authentication and data and functions, and just making it really easy for developers to sort of build applications and not have to think too much about the underlying AWS services. So Amplify Auth kind of makes it easy to have your users kind of log in without worrying about like Cognito, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of a choose your own adventure when you're having to do that, especially if you take somebody like fish out of water, for them to have to kind of Frankenstein their solution together, especially if you're a dev, you've never had to manage infrastructure. Like, what's DNS? How do I make auth work? Why aren't my passwords working? What's a role? It
Yep.
gets very difficult, and that's one of the kind of unsung things I've always liked about Amplify. And I think you did a really good way of summing it up, and with that proverbial elevator pitch.
Yeah. I'm curious if anyone in the chat has used Amplify hosting or Amplify, just to kind of hear who's familiar.
Let
But
us know.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you
please.
have not tried it, it is definitely worth uh, taking a peek.
Bonus
Absolutely.
points.
So
Bonus points if you drop the domain name for your Amplify project, and we will be
Yeah.
checking. We will be checking the
Yeah.
homework. And the first person that let's make it interesting. First person that can drop their domain, we verify is an Amplify. We may reach out. We may have a little something for you if you come
Ooh.
at reInvent. How's that sound? Cool, chat. Please chime in and let us know.
Yeah.
we do live stream from reInvent, so you never know what might come upon you if you put it in the chat now. Let us
Yeah.
know. I think so. I heard that what you've released now is going to help people like me who don't usually host many websites anymore, but maybe want to. And I think it's going to be the newest, easiest way to do this.
Yes.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so that's a good segue. So I was sort of talking about Amplify makes it really easy to host your app. So a big part of app hosting is static websites. So these are websites that are just HTML, JavaScript, CSS, And funnily, I actually had a site that was like my personal site, and I had all the files in an S3 bucket. And S3 has this feature called website hosting, and this was like 5 or 6 years ago. And I just needed something super simple to deploy my static site. I didn't want to think about servers or anything like that. So I tried the S3 feature, and it makes it easy, but there definitely are a few steps. So you have to like add CloudFront. I remember having to name the S3 bucket as like the domain name, which was like funny. I always wondered, like, what if the S3 bucket name was taken? Like, then what would you do? So
that might have happened during my awesome builder, but I'm sorry for
Awesome.
interrupting, but please continue.
Yeah, no, yeah. So basically, what else did you have to do? You had to set up your bucket policies, and then connecting a domain was a bit involved as well. So with Amplify Hosting, we have now made it really easy to deploy any app that is in S3, or if you have any static files in S3 and you want to deploy them, it's super simple to use Amplify Hosting now. So we built this integration with S3 that's really a few clicks, and then your site's deployed. So I definitely want to do a demo of that, but yeah.
That sounds amazing. In the chat, let us know if this also sounds exciting to you. And live on AWS OnAir, let's get a demo going.
Yeah, please. I mean, did we leave the proverbial drop of blood on the doorstep to keep the vampires away, to keep the demo gods at bay, or
yeah,
the demo vampires?
Hey, anybody that's ever had to do a demo, we know there's a pound of flesh or an ounce of blood that's gotta be. You gotta satiate them. Trust me on that.
Or a bowl of candy.
Okay,
vampires you're working with.
Fine.
I have my screen ready if we want to switch over.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah, so it looks like I'm live. So just to start off, I'm in the Amplify console. So if you haven't used Amplify before, you basically search. I just have a bookmark here, AWS Amplify. But if you have no apps, you essentially see this page. And if you click this button, this is sort of the entryway. So you can connect your app with GitHub, Bitbucket, Code Commit, GitLab, and then
awesome.
You could
Matt,
start...
could you do me a favor and just zoom in one more time? My
Yeah,
eyes are trying their best.
Okay. Yes, is this better?
Perfect. Thank you. Yes.
Cool. So then we have a few other methods. So you can, for example, use S3. So this is one of the options. And then also, if you don't want to use S3 and you just have your files on your computer, you could just upload a zip file. Or if you have them hosted on some other file service, you could just provide a URL. But for this demo, I actually want to start from S3 because that's really the beauty of this integration and how simple it is. So I have quite a few AWS buckets here, or sorry, S3 buckets, I should say.
Yes.
And then
that is quite a few to say the least.
Yeah, and then I called it Amplify. Okay, that's not going to work. Merch. Okay, this merch store. So I put together a really simple website. So it's literally an index.html file, and then we have a CSS file here, and then some images. So essentially what you would do is if you want to host the site, so it just lives in S3 today. I just created the bucket. I don't have any sort of fancy configuration here. And then if you click properties, in the past, you would scroll to the bottom and there would be the S3 static hosting. But now we've added this banner. So it basically says the new recommended approach is to use AWS Amplify. And all you need to do is basically click this button and it should bring me into Amplify now. So it's done that.
Super sleek.
Yeah, so super fast. It brings you into Amplify and then I can give it an app name. So this is merch store for AWS OnAir. You can give it a branch name if you'd like, and then it already pre-fills with the location, but if you wanted to sort of use the file browser, you could. And then you click save and deploy, and then that is literally it. The entire site is going to deploy in hopefully a second or two, and then yeah, of course it's taking longer. There we go.
It's okay.
that had me nervous for a second.
You tempted the demo gods. You did it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's deployed. So let's see. And yeah, here's the site I created. So this index file just was in S3 a few seconds ago, and now it's behind a CDN. It's available globally. So this is behind CloudFront. So users who are hitting this. So it scales all of that. And yeah, that took like 10 seconds. It was so fast. Yeah.
Good, Matt, could you remind our group what in the chat what CloudFront is?
Yes. So CloudFront is basically Amazon's CDN offering, which stands for Content Delivery Network. And essentially, I feel like this is the famous like interview question for a
I was
software
about to
engineer.
say.
So
Yeah,
I'm getting a little nervous here, but basically, there's sort of server locations across the US, and these servers basically cache files. So this index file, if a user is in like Montana, visits the site, there may be what they call, I think, an edge location, which is like a server. And if someone requests it there, the file will basically go from the origin to the CDN there, and then other users nearby will get it from that location. So basically helps with performance.
You passed the test, Matt. That was
Okay.
really
Yeah.
quite eloquent for our.
Did I get the
our fans
job?
in the chat.
Yeah, but now you get to talk about CloudFront all day, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it might kind of detract us from what we're
Yes.
the oddball path
Yes,
ascent.
But no,
let's
it is a good question because it is a benefit you get with Amplify. We manage, so it's a managed service. You don't have to think about CloudFront, I
Yeah.
should say.
As somebody that's had to set up numerous CloudFront distros and have to manage point of origin, refresh rate changing, peak type of traffic, think of like a Super Bowl type of can't fail event. Yeah, that is a bear, and that's like a 24-hour war room. Everybody's seen the Always Sunny meme with Pepe Silva, with everybody kind of strung out, pointing at the chart. That's exactly what it's like to roll your own distro, and anybody that's had to live that can 100% attest to that. You kind of end up wrapped up like a mummy. You can't really, you're so bound to it, you can't really walk away from it. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
Yes, this is a lot simpler than all that. I hope.
Yes, I think so. So what else do we have here?
But cool. So I wanted to cover a few other use cases. So I think a common thing for building your own website is to have a custom domain. So that's one thing I want to make sure that we have time to do. And then the second thing is you may want to actually update content. So what does it look like to update content? What is that workflow? So maybe I'll start with updating content. So I have the website. Whoops. Okay, I have the website in VS Code here. So as I said, the site is fairly straightforward. It's really just an index.html file. So I don't know, does anyone have a suggestion for what we want to change? Let me pull it up. Well, I should say within reason.
Within reason.
Why isn't the, oh, I think.
Can we add Adrian as a product?
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah, we could try to do that. So normally.
I'm going to say I got more hardware in me than a hardware store, man. So it's a valid sub.
Let's make, so let's make a new product for Adrian.
Okay.
Well, we'll say a hat. How about?
An Adrian hat.
Yeah, so Adrian fan.
Yeah.
Or
the fan would involve like my infant daughter, maybe my mom, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay though.
The hat should be $25.
Well, let's wait a minute.
Perfect to show your love for Adrian.
Amazing.
Okay. So if I save this now, we could check it locally, but why don't we just deploy it and see what it looks like? So,
all right.
The first thing, so there's like several like ways you could basically like build a workflow for this, but essentially like what we need to do is update the file in S3, and then we need to tell Amplify that you want to start a deployment. So there's all sort of like workflows people could build that, you could use Lambda, like you could ping a Lambda function and it could sync S3 and then it could call Amplify. But for this example, I'm going to just do it in my CLI locally. So I have the AWS CLI. So I essentially want to start with, I'll just copy and paste the S3 sync command. So I think I'm in my local directory here. Yep. So sort of the command looks something like this. So you want to tell the command where the files are locally. So if I just have a period here, that should be this directory. And then the second variable or parameter, I guess, is the bucket name, which let me, I'm gonna get lost in all these windows.
You're doing great.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. So the bucket name is right here. So let me just copy and paste this and then paste it here. Okay. So if I click save, this should update the file. So it said it uploaded the index file. So it detected that there was a change. So it basically like looks at the timestamps, because if I had several files, the sync command just updates whatever you've changed. So if you want, we can verify first in S3 that the file has actually changed. So it's always hard with UTC time, but is that?
That's right.
Yeah, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's 2057 and now it's 21.
Yes.
So
That's impressive. Okay. So yeah, so that's updated. So you could go to the Amplify console now and click on the app and click deploy updates, but that wouldn't be very fun. So it'd be more fun to use a CLI command. So with Amplify, we have a few commands. So for this specific like manual deployment, we want to run a start deployment command. So I'll just copy and paste that here. And basically says start deployment, you give it the app ID, you give it the branch name, and then you give it the S3 source. So this is something you could like alias or hard code if you had a deployment script or something like that. But just for this example, I should be able to click enter. And then that's just telling Amplify, hey, we should start a new deployment and pull the files from this S3 bucket. So it now should be done. It shows pending because that's essentially just the first status. But if I refresh this page, let's see if it deployed. Oh, you know what? I have the wrong app ID. That's why. Okay.
See how you are?
So yeah, there we go. So that was another app I was using to test this. Because I was going to say that should have updated.
No, that's perfect. This is truly proof
True
that it's
debugging.
all live.
Yes.
We are here.
You know, wanted to call out the note from Cooley D. Set up the site, deployed, and it's going. That's awesome. Through the course,
Someone's doing it live.
They're doing it live.
Yes, doing it live with you. You
cool.
Just gained another customer, Matt.
Awesome. Yep. So it says last deployment 0 minutes ago. Nice. So that should be live. So now if we refresh the page, whoops. There we go. We have.
Looks like it's right.
Adrian fan hat.
You can now purchase a fake Adrian fan hat.
Yes. There are no real hats here. Do you have a fan hat?
No. If there were, there would be 2s of orders, maybe a third. I don't know. It depends on whether I'm still watching or not.
Sounds like we need to get you a fan hat.
You need a hat.
No. Stick on beard maybe, but no, not a fan hat.
Oh, that's tough. Our producer's being a little rude to you today, but it's okay.
Way to be a Grinch, Nick. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Should we
wonder why nobody wants to do things for you.
Should we pause for a second to see if there's questions, or should we look at?
Yeah, actually, we do have one question that I wanted to ask. So you're pulling up all these CLI commands. Where's the best place to find all of these CLI commands that you're copying and pasting?
That is a good question. So we had this blog post go out. So this feature launched 2 or 3 days ago. And there's a section here about, So we also do have the AWS docs, which I can find in a second. But I would say the blog post kind of walks through an example. So it has that command that I have here.
Fantastic. We'll drop that link in the chat for you all.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You have the new blog that just got posted, and then we can also drop a link for the general documentation.
And then this docs guide would probably be pretty good.
Okay, we'll definitely get that thrown in.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left, so I wanted to see how we change the domain before we lose you.
Yes. I don't know. How much time do we have? Just so.
About 3 minutes.
Okay. Let's see if I could add the domain that fast. So essentially in Amplify, a lot of things are managed for you. So we can add a custom domain. And also, for example, you get like monitoring built in. So this integrates with CloudWatch. So you kind of get some of these metrics out of the box. But for a custom domain, I think that's a pretty big use case for a static site. So I have a few domains that I added to Route 53. So I actually just bought this domain, and it was only $2, which is funny,
Nice.
a .store domain. So I haven't tried this in a while. So let's see. So you hit configure, and then it's basically asking you how you want to map your domains. So I'm going to say like the Apex domain is going to be routed to staging, but you could have another branch called production or however you want to do it. And also subdomains you can map to other branches, which is cool. And then Yeah, and then the SSL certificates are completely managed, or you can bring your own with ACM, Amazon Certificate Manager. So if I click add domain now, it should, in theory, do everything for you. I should have started this maybe when we were editing content, but
That's okay.
let's see.
That's
Yeah.
all right.
It's all
So
good.
under the hood, it's issuing the certificate and it's adding records to Route 53 for me.
If anybody's ever managed DNS, that's a
Yeah,
bear,
this,
and you wouldn't wish that on your own enemy. Like worse.
yeah, it can get crazy. Let's maybe give it like 30 seconds though, because I am curious if it works. And we can see if there's any questions.
I think the only question is that you're in absolute beast mode right now.
I know,
Nice
I'm a
job.
little worried because this is okay, so I thought it added this to Route 53 for you. I'm just curious if anything is here.
All right,
Otherwise,
well,
we can try
Worth
that.
a look. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay,
You
no.
have an extra
So
minute or two.
yeah, this will take a second. So let's go to Route 53. Let's see if the records are added, actually.
yeah, if it'll just pop up, that would be pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it looks like it put some records in here, actually. So
Damn, that is a
add
bit.
D3OI, let's see.
I see it.
Yeah, I see it. So I
Yeah.
think it does add it for you. Yeah, I think it just takes a few.
Just might take a minute.
Yeah, I don't know
That's
why.
totally valid.
Yeah, this is slick, I gotta say, Matt. I mean,
Yeah,
This is
you may
awesome.
mention the CloudFront famous interview question. Mine is usually on DNS, and yeah, this being able to absolve yourself of just I need to get something going quickly, and I don't have to think about the info or the DNS.
Yeah.
This is huge. The amount of time and quality of life.
Oh, yeah.
for dev, this is insane, man.
All right.
Yeah.
While we have about one more minute, I believe 3 minutes. Our producers are extending you because you're so
Ooh,
great.
3 minutes. Okay.
One of the questions I think that's interesting is how do you recommend handling versioning and backwards compatibility?
Like versioning your apps or.
Yeah, so it sounds like when you want to update something, you update the S3 file and then you can just push it through Amplify. Is there like an undo button, or would you just undo your changes in the S3 file and then push that again? What's the
Yeah.
process look like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So what I would do is I would use multiple branches. So I would probably have like a staging branch like I have, and then I would probably have like a production branch. And if you're using some sort of source control, you could merge your changes to the staging branch and it will auto, or actually, sorry, it won't auto deploy, but if you deploy your changes in staging, you can basically get different hosted URLs per branch. And then you can basically like look at your changes, and like once they look good, you could basically merge the changes from staging to production. And it might be worth calling out something that's kind of neat in access control. You can actually lock the site down. So, and you can have like some like branches that are locked down. So if I just say like amplify and hello restricted, so hello 1 2 3, and I click save. Let's see. So this would work right now. So
Oh, cool.
it's password controlled. Yeah. So you could have new.
That's
so you could
so
have like
cool.
new features. Yeah. So if I say amplify hello 1 2 3, there we go. So now I'm in. So you could have other branches that are not password controlled or are. But yeah, I don't know if I fully answered the question for backwards compatibility. I think yeah, I would kind of just use branches again. Oh, it looks like the domain's making progress, by the way.
Well, there we go. You're giving the people they want, says the
Yeah.
chat. And I got to agree. This has got to be one of the most.
I'll post it in the chat if we run out of time, but it looks like it might just need another minute or two. But
Actually, feedback in the chat said that it was working for a couple of users. Which
they
is,
went to the site. Oh yeah, see that's the crazy thing about I gotta go and yeah. Do you want to try it on your computer? I probably have my DNS all screwed up, but
yeah, try it on your phone. He says Focus Otter working for him, but probably cached for us. We're having to do with our baddie stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. Everyone thinks it's cool. I'd say if you want to try it out, you just need to go to the Amplify service and create an app. And we do have a free tier. I forget the details off the top of my head, but should be free for you to host your site.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Matt. We are just about at time, so I think We're
Okay,
gonna have to
cool.
post
Mind
the
blown.
link in the chat for
This
everyone
is a
to
good
keep
pause
testing.
point. Nothing
Yes.
broke yet.
Or we'll take it while we can.
Yeah.
We will take
Hands
it.
off.
Cut away.
Leave on the high note, you know?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well,
Pencils
thanks
up.
for having me.
Done. Thank
Dude.
you so much for joining us. That was
Always a
amazing.
pleasure. Yeah, that
The
was
chat is
fantastic.
popping off. Everybody is loving how interactive it was, so we really appreciate it.
Oh, that's
Thanks
cool.
for joining.
Okay, cool. See
Thank
everyone
you, man.
later.
We'll see
All
you.
right, see you
Bye.
later. And everyone in the chat, don't leave us. We have a few more sections today. This is not the end of our show. We've got a word from our dear friends at NVIDIA. We've got credits available to you down below. And we've got our favorite person in the entire world, Jeff Barr, joining us. So please stay tuned and fill out the survey real quick. Our producers do need something to do on the weekends. I'll say that every single AWS OnAir without fail.
True, without fail.
And I think it's probably time for a word from our sponsors.
I think so. Let's go to it.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, thanks for that great introduction. My name is Jeff Marushak, and we have a little special segment here talking to our friends from not only NVIDIA, but also we're going to welcome in some other folks from another company called SoftServe. And we're going to be talking about a generative AI industrial assistant. But with me right now is Ellie Youth from NVIDIA. Ellie Youth, how are you doing today?
Good, Jeff. Thank you for having us today.
So set the stage here. What are we going to be seeing?
So we are working with this magnificent partner, SoftServe. So SoftServe has been using NVIDIA software, the NVIDIA software stack that you may be familiar with now, NVIDIA NIMs, NVIDIA, all of the NVIDIA services that just help the customers and the partners to accelerate the Gen AI solutions. So today, SoftServe is bringing this industrial assistant, which is powered by NVIDIA NIMs, is powered by NVIDIA ASR, Riva, and is powered by many other services from NVIDIA, which are NeMo Guardrails, NeMo Retriever, and some other software solutions. So this is a perfect solution in how you can accelerate your deployment for Gen AI for either training or inference. So in this case, it's a complete solution available through you using AWS services, AWS EC2, on top of NVIDIA EC2 instances, NVIDIA NIMs and NVIDIA software, and with that, the magic of SoftServe. So we would like to hear more, and you know, let's take SoftServe the stage.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Ellie Youth. And let's welcome in our friends Marina and Zoriana from SoftServe. Ladies, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Thanks a lot, Jeff, for having us. I will start probably. So my name is Marina. I'm a data scientist at SoftServe. I've been here for quite a while, for almost 6 years, gosh. And my recent focus is the Gen AI solutions across various industries, but from the tech perspective. Zorana?
Yep. Hi, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. So my name is Zorana Doshna. I'm with SoftServe already for 11 years. Do not remember myself, like without working here and collaborating with great people that we have. My major focus is technology productization and commercialization while working with our customers and partners. And a year ago, I took also additional responsibility and became one of the leaders of our generative AI lab. We work together with Marina as well as with AWS and NVIDIA as our partners on creation of different types of the solutions. And today we will be presenting one to you.
Well, that's great. And this is somewhat interesting for me because I do a lot of IoT things. And I've worked with a lot of customers who have factories with different pieces of machinery from different manufacturers. They all have different manuals. They all have different sensors. They might send data, IoT data in different formats. And the challenge is bringing it all together. So can you tell us a little bit about this SoftServe Gen AI industrial system?
Yep. Who should cover this? You or me?
Maybe go ahead, Marina.
All right. Right, Jeff. So as you correctly highlighted that Our main, the main purpose of this industrial assistant is to combine all of the different data sources and bring it into one single solution, one point of contact whenever an operator or whatever user is having a problem, whenever user want to do something with the equipment, check out the health, do some, I don't know, troubleshooting if it spots the some trouble, or perform a maintenance procedure, whatever. So it can use a single solution to do all of those stuff without needing to go to the different data sources, God forbid, using actual manuals where you need to like go through a bunch of pages in order to find a suitable procedure whatsoever. So that's the benefit of the current solution.
Yep. And if I also may add, so it adds a lot of capabilities for workers, basically augments them, so they can retrieve the information from all of those paper documents, all of the data, either IoT or some, like historical informations about the specific equipment in a couple of seconds by asking the assistant in a natural language instead of looking into the paper documents or asking the colleagues. And it already proved that the solution may increase the efficiency of the workers, both on production line and maintenance engineers plus managers, as well as it also helps to increase overall equipment efficiency as such while executing the production tasks.
Yeah, that OEE is very important. And if anyone knows what OEE is, it's a calculated metric. There's not an OEE sensor on a piece of machinery. You have to maybe get sensors and information from multiple things to determine OEE. So that's very important. All right, so cool. You're making it easier for the operators who sometimes have to work with different pieces of equipment. Like, so what's game changing? And I see generative AI in there. So that means I can imagine, I'm just thinking you might have 10 manuals to look through, and how do I fix an oil leak here? And it sounds like generative AI is going to look at those manuals and help us out there. Am I along the right lines?
Yeah, I would say that definitely yes, Jeff. So first of all, generative AI enables the summarization of all of the most important information within tons of documents. Think about manuals for the production lines. It's not 10 pages, it's like 1,000 pages of different information for the individual to digest. So generative AI summarizes the critical points for you. It creates the procedures that you have to execute, and then it helps you by guiding you through each and every piece, and then highlighting some of the items on the 3D visualization, for example, of the specific equipment. And not only that, you can either type the text if you have a chance, or you can talk by using your natural language to an assistant and utilizing some of the NVIDIA technologies, such as Riva, for example, to speed up even that process of the information search. So I would say these two items are the most critical or the game changers. Also, I think that, this solution is designed end-to-end for scale. So we are talking about thousands of different users within manufacturing lines. Think about some large company that has to produce, let's say, chairs or something like that. They have representations in different states, for example, and not only, like 10 employees or so, but also thousands. So I think these are three major points. Maybe Marina, you want to add something as well?
No, I think you just highlighted that very briefly, that this assistant does not only give you textual information like, hey, follow these 5 steps in order to, do the maintenance procedure. It actually gives you the pictures of the components that you need to pay attention to, the tweaks that you need to do, I don't know, the monitor that you need to look at. And if you have a 3D model of the actual equipment, you can connect this assistant to the 3D model, and you can actually see not only this small picture of what you need to look at and where you need to look at it. Like, imagine a very big equipment, and this 3D model will allow you to, will navigate you where you need to go, where you need to check some stuff. So that's also very exciting.
I can imagine a large chair factory with 50 chair machines, and chair machine number 36 is having a temperature. Where exactly is that?
Yeah.
An operational digital twin, I guess you would say. So this sounds really exciting. What kind of AWS services is the solution using?
So this solution is container-based and primarily based on the NVIDIA stack, meaning that we're heavily utilizing NVIDIA inference microservices, the LLM, the retriever, the re-ranker, and so on. When it comes to AWS, we are deploying that solution on the EKS or Kubernetes cluster, which allows us, since our solution contains of different components, different containers, this EKS allows us to simplify the container orchestration, allows for flexible scalability, and also what is important, the entire thing is running on accelerated EC2 instances, which is very crucial in our case because we are operating in environment that requires high computational power. And so that's the component.
Yeah, pretty cool. What does the architecture look like? What are we kind of thinking of?
So from the architectural perspective, let me give you a high-level view. So in this center of our solution would be obviously the GenAI, the LLM that's going to be processing all of the inputs from the user and generating outputs. But then we have an ensemble of different agents, which actually allows us to give more precise answers and retrieve the information from a particular source according to the user questions. And as for the data sources within our architecture, we have two main ones. So the first one is the structured data source called the vector store, where we store all of the data retrieved from the manuals, from the troubleshooting guides whatsoever. And then a second data source is the time series database, which all of the sensor readings are recorded and stored, and from where we retrieve the same OEE or like the performance metrics whatsoever. And you can see it later on in the demo, but that's the high level view of the architecture.
Yeah, I can imagine there's probably like a documentation manual agent, and there's probably sort of like a live sensor information agents, et cetera, et cetera. So that sounds good. I hear you have a demo. Can we see this in action, see what it looks like?
Absolutely. So let me share it. Cool. So let me start from the beginning. So as I already mentioned, our solution can be integrated with the actual 3D model of the equipment. But for now, let's forget about the 3D model. Let's focus on the actual capabilities of the assistant. So obviously, this is the interface that you come to whenever you have a problem, whenever you want to make a request, or whenever you want to ask about some troubleshooting or maintenance, or check out the health of the equipment. So you're asking, and in this example, we're asking, like, show me the OEE components for the March 4th, wherever. For some reason, we're interested in March 4th. And with literally one single prompt, you can actually see what was the OEE components for that date. And that's basically how we can easily retrieve that data without going into some third-party system, without like switching between the applications whatsoever. To move forward, for example, what was the maximum availability in 2024? And here we don't need a graph. We're just asking for some particular number. Therefore, it doesn't show you the graph. It's a smart interface, a smart assistant. So we just show you the numbers. Then we're, for example, asking about the expected production volume for the next 7 days. So here we want to see a rough forecast for our production volume for the next week. And we can also do that with this assistant. So we can see a little bit of historical data colored in blue, and then we have an actual forecast in orange. So that actually another capability of the assistant. Enough with the graphs. So for example, I'm the operator that's interested in daily checks that I should perform on my equipment. And I can also ask this thing, and what do I see? Not only can the assistant elaborate on my question. So at first I ask something very broad, like which daily checks, but the maintenance, the manuals contain a lot of different checks. So the assistant asks you what particular procedure you're interested in. So once I clarify that, the assistant guides me through where I should go, where exactly that place in my machinery located. Then it gives me very brief instructions on what I need to do in order to do that procedure. And on the right-hand side, you can see like the maintenance plan. This is a small picture of the actual equipment, the photo of the actual equipment, and the display that I should look at while checking my oil pressure in this example. And yeah, so I think that's that should give you the overview of the capabilities of the system.
We were talking about agents. I mean, think about predictive maintenance, a whole different agent to do when we're seeing a belt vibrating a little bit out of spec. Maybe we should go change that belt before it causes a problem and affects our OEE, that our manager is going to come to our desk and say, hey, what's the OEE for March 4th, et cetera, et cetera. So I could see this making a big impact. Ladies, this has been great. We're running out of time. For anyone who's interested in this, where would you recommend they go to learn more about the SoftServe GenAI Industrial Assistant?
Yeah, there are a couple of links that we can share afterwards. So there is a GenAI solution article that we can share. There is an offering with the same name on AWS Marketplace. There is a solution page that can be shared, as well as supporting one-pagers and the video of the demo that we showed today. So we'll be able to share all of those.
That sounds great. Mariana and Zoriana, thank you so much for your time and sharing this great product with us. Everyone, I'm Jeff Marushak. We're going to head back to the studio for Nick and who he's got over there. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having us.
Ready.
Gigi.
Hi.
Hey, welcome back. Folks,
How's it going?
It is going great. I've started noodling on listening to that session with our friends over at SoftServe and with NVIDIA,
Yes.
talking about the things that they're looking for in manufacturing. I work with a partner down in Brazil that has been talking of all things edge compute and IoT, as well as generative AI for some of their manufacturing and dairy customers. And I can very easily imagine the thing that we had talked about of, can I get predictive analytics and get to understand what some of the machinery is starting to go out of whack? Because as Jeff made mention, if some of this stuff goes down, it halts the assembly line, and the loss can be hundreds of thousands and not millions of dollars the longer that this thing goes on. And I think, these type of use cases, the chat would love to hear if anything of that kind of resonates.
Yes.
It's kind of the unsung, really, once you get past the idea of chatbots for everything and, intuitive, customer service. This is the meat and potatoes of what customers are telling us they want to solve for. And this is where the age of innovation is just kind of getting started.
Yes, absolutely. I also want to say where LC innovation is getting started is where we look at Jeff Barr's favorite launches of the week. So why don't we bring him on and hear a little bit more about some more innovations?
Would love to. Let's do it.
Adrian.
How's it going?
Doing good. Good to see you both. I'm kind of just sitting here quietly, just working on content for reInvent.
Mm-hmm.
So super fun.
That's pretty awesome.
It
That's
takes
an
a lot of
easy,
focus, which I don't always have, but trying.
You do it as well as anyone I've ever seen in like 25, 26 years of doing this thing. And honestly, I don't know how you find the time.
It's my job.
Amazing. It is your job. They say do what you love and you don't work a day in your life. And I feel like you do, in fact, get to do what you love.
How does that apply to Nick, though? Because Nick doesn't do much and it doesn't do it particularly well, yet he's happy as they come. I don't get it.
All right, let's not put down our producers when they aren't here on camera to defend themselves. Producers will have their moment.
He's an awesome reader of surveys. We do know that.
Yes, he's really, really good at it.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in.
Speaking of 20-something years, do you know what's coming up in 8 days?
Your anniversary?
I feel like I should know this.
In 8 days will be the 20-year anniversary of the launch of the AWS News blog.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Are you getting swag made up? Are you going to have like a nice bedazzled rhinestone jacket or something? What are we doing to commemorate?
A big 2-0 on your back.
I'm not quite sure. I know there's something planned for reInvent, and we'll have to see. I've got some good plans for after 20, so we'll not ready to share those just yet here, but we can talk about those in a little bit post reInvent. But I've got plenty of awesome news to share today.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Plenty. All right. So the first cool thing is something we announced at last year's reInvent, Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL Limitless Database. And this one is like literally like scale that's even hard to think about. Like if you think about, if you remember the first Star Trek movie and V'ger, the monster from that movie, this scale is like kind of hard to wrap your brain around. So like you can build a relational database that scales to millions of write transactions per second and petabytes of data.
Mm-hmm.
But the awesome thing about this is it's still as easy to use as running a single database. The way it works is your data and your queries get distributed across multiple Aurora serverless instances. It's got transactional consistency across that, and it can scale up to 6,144 Aurora compute units. But if you need more than that, we can you can file a ticket and we can help you to get even more. But it'll scale up and scale down the compute and the memory that goes along with that. And so you don't have to like provision for peak loads. It'll just give you as much capacity as you want. And even at that scale, you can even have redundancy with one or two standbys across different AZs. Now, to do this, what you actually have to do is you have to designate some of your tables as what we call sharded tables. And you define a shard key, which basically says, how do you take this massive amount of data and decide which subset of it goes on each of the serverless instances? You can also create what are called reference tables that we replicate those to every shard. So if you're joining a reference table to something in a sharded table, you can put those on instances to make things efficient. And you can also have standard tables that just sit there on a single shard. I think I actually have a little architecture diagram here. I forgot to bring up. Let me remember my keys here. Yes, if we do that, yes, that'll bring up the architecture diagram there. My colleague Chani actually put an awesome blog post together that talks about how all of this works. So this is all really easy to use. Easy to use relative to the fact that you're building a database at this scale. So if you're thinking that, okay, I've got petabytes of data and millions of writes, you need to do a little bit of thinking and planning and say, how am I going to actually shard my data properly so that it fits across all of these different serverless instances. But it's available today in 10 regions, and it's compatible with PostgreSQL 16.4. And we will drop a link to Chani's blog post to get going. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, super, super cool. The next one's actually a lot more pedestrian, but I think pretty simple, but really helpful. Some new metrics for EBS value. And the metrics actually give you the average read and write latency of your volumes. And so you can view these. Let me see, do I have this? I actually do. Yes. Okay, there we go. So you get latency metrics. And like any CloudWatch metrics, you can view them, you can set alarms, you can add them to dashboards, and you can just look at them to figure out like what is the actual bottleneck in my application's performance. And you can look at that and you can say, well, if I'm getting too much latency, maybe I need to provision some more IOPS, or I can switch to a volume type. But simple and helpful, and gives you the information that you need to know how your system is performing. There's a quick what's new on that. The cool thing I like about this is if you just pop up your metrics, it's right there already. It's not like you had to actually reboot or install new software or agents or change config. It's just the EBS volumes you've already got are now reporting this really important metric for you.
You know, you mentioned that it's pedestrian, Jeff, but I cannot count like legitimately the number of back and forth and discussions I've had with customers in our specialist request queue where somebody says, hey, I've got a hard problem and I don't know what to figure out and I can't understand what's happening. The back and forth to get some level of granularity of these stats is typically measured in weeks to months. But if a customer is just able to go click into it and all of a sudden, hey, I see my ratio reads to writes, and hey, I understand what's idle and what's not. This is huge. It's such a good quality of life improvement for us being selfish. And even for the customer, just to be able to go in there and not have to go restart, install an agent, etc. That's huge.
Yeah, I see in our chat that a couple of people are asking about how do I do the floating boxes? And
yes,
so for early pandemic, since when I started streaming from home, I learned about this awesome piece of open source code called OBS, the Open Broadcast Studio. OBS is super powerful, and it's not dangerous, but it's an incredible black hole. If you're kind of a person who likes to take something and control and configure and push buttons and add extensions and script and empower. Once you kind of get pulled into the OBS black hole, you will feel incredibly empowered, and you will you can spend days and days doing really, really, really cool stuff with it. Like when I'm in my other location, when I do the 3D projections of my window, that's all powered by OBS and a Stream Deck and some HTTP requests and fun stuff like that.
There we go.
Okay, and my
Noted.
cool thing.
Yes.
Okay, we've talked about the fault injection service, or FIS, before, and I love the fault injection service because it basically lets you break your infrastructure in a controlled way. And the idea is you can selectively break or impair some part of AWS, and just to make sure that your app responds as expected. So if you've got some kind of scaling or redundancy or failover, the FIS basically lets you go from, well, we drew the diagram and it's supposed to figure out how to switch over or fail over or scale up, to actually saying, well, we've simulated this in a bunch of different ways in a bunch of different conditions, and it actually works the way we expected. So FIS already supports a bunch of services. That's not the right one. Let's go to the next one. It already supports a bunch of services. And so it already supports, as you can see on the screen, EC2 and RDS and DynamoDB and CloudWatch and quite a few more. But the neat thing that we added this week, and we added a ton of stuff on Wednesday alone, the day before Halloween. I think we added we launched 30 something things on October 30th. It was kind of insane how much we launched in a single day. And anyway, so we now support Lambda. And so you can now do all kinds of cool faults of your Lambda functions. Let me bring that one up.
Oh,
yes. So you can do stuff
cool.
like every invocation of specific Lambda functions. You can make the function run more slowly. So you can say between when your code says invoke and when the function actually starts running, you can put a delay of seconds, minutes, or even hours. You can do this on either all the invocations of a function, or you could say, well, do it on 1%, 10%, 50%, or even 100% if you wanted to. And you can also make the startup phase of your functions run longer. So if you're worried that the startup part of your Lambda functions, the cold start is taking too long, you can dial it in with FIS and say, let's actually prove it or disprove it and run that test. So you can do invocation delays. You can make some of your invocations actually return errors, which is totally cool, because you can say, I want 5% of my invocations of these functions to actually fail. And so you can now say, well, what about when bits of my system start to break down in some cool way? Now, we also know that a lot of Lambda functions actually make outbound HTTP requests to something else. And they might call something in front of an ALB. They might call something that's behind an API gateway. They might call VPC lattice. So you can actually also inject faults into that. So delays, and you can change the status responses, and you can do that also on a percentage basis. So this is super amazing, because you can break your infrastructure in very, very different controlled ways. And the way I like to think about this, and I actually wish I had some big infrastructure to break. Unfortunately, I don't have anything of note other than a few ancient static websites I never have time to do anything with. You can break stuff, but then you can go from, my whiteboard says it's going to fail over, to I actually tested it in a bunch of different ways, and it actually works the way I thought it would. And one important aspect of this is we generally tell people, run this on your staging server at first, to make sure that you understand what it is that you're breaking. But our more experienced and adventurous and confident customers will run it in production. They'll say, you know what, we are highly confident that if we virtually pull the plug on some of this stuff, it's just going to keep on going. And this is almost a challenge you might give to your architects and your devs and your ops folks, is saying, how confident are you of all this? Can we run faults on the production environment? And if they say, hey, let's go for it, great indication. If they say, let's go back to the drawing board and check some more, it's good to know that maybe a little bit more investment in understanding and testing and staging would be worthwhile. So we'll drop a link to that as well. But those are three cool things I picked out of I don't even know how many we had last week. 50, 60, 70 launches. So the pace of innovation is still there.
It's still rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
That
it is.
I really like that thought process where like fault injection service is there to test everything, but also there to be used as a tool to say, if we're not confident, let's run it on the non-production workload. Let's see what we can fix.
Yeah.
And let's fix it and then use this as a test.
Exactly.
absolutely.
So many years ago, before AWS, I was trying to set up a failover for MySQL from a primary to a secondary. And as I started putting it together, this was for like a kind of a hobby project gone wild kind of thing. So it wasn't like I was getting paid to do this. But I kept thinking, there's no way I'll ever be able to figure out all the ways this can fail. And it's not like I had extra servers laying around to test. And I ultimately never actually did it, because every time I think, okay, I've got this failure condition detected and this is how I'll fail over, you could easily think of 10 more ways that would either not work or could just not be detectable. And so having that built into so many parts of AWS to me is one of those things that you almost want to just take for granted. The fact that like you go to RDS and you say, make me a multi AZ RDS, and you click and like, okay, how many gazillion times has that been tested and failed over, and how many fault scenarios do we know about that the customers just would never have the time to figure out and understand and make happen?
That's the whole point of it all.
Back when I was a wee SA architect professional, whatever, I remember running DR for a bank in exactly that whiteboarding scenario and tabletop scenario you mentioned, Jeff, of, hey, we think if we drop this table that this would cascade, but every time you come up with something, you have your definitive list, you got to throw it away because you forgot something else, or somebody remembered another fragile artifact, single point of failure. And it's truly kind of the unsung hero here about the undifferentiated heavy lifting of these things, because we have seen things break in a gajillion different ways so that the customer doesn't have to. And just reinforcing that by just making this available. Hey, here's a thing you can go do if you're not confident, or bring everybody together. You aforementioned ops, your support, your engineering, your architects, to have that hard conversation instead of spending a weekend or the quarterly testing window of diagramming and whiteboarding it. You actually put it into practice and see how everything cascades and potentially fail or not. It's game changing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and especially when a lot of these failures are not as cut and dried as you'd like. It's something intermittent, and it's not like it works or doesn't work. It's working some percent of the time, and it's kind of blurry and fuzzy, and it's like, oh, those are so much harder to detect, actually.
Yeah, it reminds me of one such scenario. It turns out the failover cluster had a 10100 network card in it instead of a just 100 full. And for whatever reason, the switch port somewhere upstream was set to have duplex, and it took like 5 days of troubleshooting to go find it. It was just because the network individual was thinking, let's go look at logs and see what we can figure out. And this just saves so much heartburn in being able to do that for you.
Exactly. Yeah, going and looking at like gauges and dials and metrics, it's one of those things that you want to do all the time, not just when something goes wrong. Like I actually try to surround myself with information of various sorts about the world, and just so that baseline of what's normal just gets absorbed in, and that you notice very, very quickly when something is amiss. Like if you pull up the dashboard for the first time when something is wrong, you don't get that intuitive feel for, well, when this is X, this one should be 2X, and this one has this kind of spiky pattern to it, but that's okay. So watching real world metrics all the time is just part of just being in tune with the world.
That's a really great piece of advice. And I think that's probably the piece of advice we should end on today. while we're peaking in this conversation.
Yeah, lots of peaks today.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Absolutely. Always happy to do this.
We really appreciate it. As always, this is just my favorite part of the show. I feel like I learned so much in such a small amount of time.
I could go on all day.
True. As you should. I think we have a few different things we need to make sure everybody listening knows about. I think first one is reInvent coming up very, very soon. What else do we have? Adrian, I'm looking.
We've got that. We've got pre-event season officially upon us, where we're just releasing a bunch of stuff in lead up to that. We've got the survey out for chat to interact with and let us know what they want to see more of, less
Yes.
of, whether they have technology that they have in mind, whether they want to see Nick pop on screen like magic, to tell us some more about the things that he's cooking up, which I was about to segue right into.
Yeah, you know,
Please, Nick.
somebody told me I was getting trash talked a little bit. Definitely wasn't watching from the comments the whole time, but you know,
Not at all.
Adrian, I think we got to chat after this. You know what I'm saying?
Let us.
Pretty good.
I would
First
love
Yeah, but first and foremost, I mean, GG, Adrian, I know we got to wrap up soon, but you guys hit most of the main points there. We've got reInvent coming up in a couple of weeks. I feel like we've all been to a couple. Jeff, I think you might have been to one or two. Should be a really fun one this year in Vegas, guys. Definitely check it out. We're even going to have some swag at the booth the first time ever, which I'm modeling now. I don't know if you can see. There we
Oh,
go.
I cannot wait to get a hat.
Boom.
I'm so excited.
Our very subtle pineapple pizza reference that we always make. You got the front side. I've been told that I should not wear hats front facing, though. Apparently, I do not have the face for that. So we're going to go backwards. Rep the pineapple pizza. But
Okay.
definitely stop by the AWS OnAir booth. Say hi to all of our hosts, myself. You'll see Jeff there. Lots of cool other guest segments, which I cannot name yet, but I'm going to plug that we're going to have some cool people stopping by the desk.
Yes.
So give us a shout out.
Are we going to give out pineapple pizza?
Are we giving
I don't
out
know. I need
pineapple pizza?
I think that goes above my producer pay grade. I need to go to the executive producers
To
for
have
that.
catering delivered to the booth might be a little.
I mean, I would not argue. The Italian in me would maybe object to the pineapple part, but the pizza part, I feel like
you
definitely.
can always pick it off.
I've got one more really important question. So my wife's been helping out with our grandkids lately, so I've actually had to do my own laundry, and which I can actually manage. That's okay. But I was actually folding my socks this morning, and I just happened to notice that several of my pairs of socks were branded socks from reInvent, and I'm wondering if and apparently socks are one of the more popular giveaways at reInvent. So should those be called swacks or swacks? Is the swag socks?
100% swag.
Yeah. Swag. Okay.
And we got a
SWOS.
question here, guys. What is reInvent? Well, let me tell you. There's the Super Bowl. Okay. There's the World Cup, and then there's reInvent. Okay. reInvent is basically the biggest cloud computing extravaganza in the world every year. We go to Vegas for a week straight, and I think we launch more things there than pretty much the rest of the year combined. It's a pretty awesome event. There's been some really cool things that have happened in the past. Some of the famous one, we drove a semi onto stage one time. We've got stuff like demo, live floor demos. Last year I played Pong against a robot. Also played chess against a robot. We aren't going to talk about who won that and how quickly. We got NFL passing demos. We got F1 race car simulators. We have movie set simulations. All this stuff to showcase how big the cloud has gotten. And teach you guys how to use it. From beginners to advanced users, everybody can get something from reInvent.
Absolutely, and we will all be there hosting AWS OnAir at the AWS OnAir booth. If you're looking for us, you just have to look up. And it's a big banner that says AWS OnAir floating above everything else.
Yeah, and I think we got to plug this one more time. Guys, I do read these surveys. I don't have any friends or a social life. I read the surveys for communications with other people. So make sure you fill out this survey. First 10 respondents get $19 in AWS credits. And most importantly, at the end of the survey, you get to vote on what I have to do at reInvent. One of those options is actually a dual thing with Jeff here, where we will have to have a hot wing eating contest while we do a little interview. So
that's good.
You guys want to see
really
us
good.
in immense pain?
Okay, so
go ahead and vote for that.
This will be contest in which dimension though? Hot or quantity? I'm much more into the hot.
I think it needs to be hot.
Hot.
Oh, you want to do quantity?
No. I'm way too old for that.
Yeah, let's definitely do the hot. We're going to get some of the hottest sauces we can find and see how many we can handle, Jeff.
Okay.
It's going to be fun.
Really look forward to this one.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And we actually have a bunch of cool shows planned leading up to it, guys. We especially want to shout out our November 22nd episode is our Road to reInvent episode. We have a 2-hour special planned. Lots of cool guest appearances and interviews, give you some insights into what to expect from the event, and talk about some of the coolest launches we've got leading up to it so you can attend those breakout sessions. So mark your calendars, November 22nd, Friday, November 22nd for that special.
One final question for you, Nick.
Yes.
Why does Gigi get her nickname on your wall and Adrian and I don't?
That's actually because Jeff.
Because
I am the
Gigi
talent.
is the talent, Jeff. You have no idea how hard it is to be the talent, as we found out
It's
from
hard.
Gigi this week.
Heavy
It's
lies the
exhausting.
crown.
Yeah.
I think you've been insulted, Adrian.
We'll
That's
protest.
amazing.
We'll
Never
spike
have
in
I ever
protest.
realized that.
Well, guys,
All right, guys.
I
this
think
was
we should
awesome.
wrap up here. As much as as much as I'd love to stay on, but thanks for tuning into the show, guys. I think it was a pretty good one.
I think so too. Thank you, chat, for popping off. This has been one of the livelier, more festive conversations. Always a pleasure
Great.
talking shop and answering questions. I look forward to running into you over at reInvent. Gigi, any final thoughts?
See you at reInvent.
Not catch you later.
No, I don't have I put my tentacles away for the week. It's now Christmas time.
Oh, the week. Okay.
Okay.
I look forward to Santa the octopus.
It'll be a Christmas octopus for the next holiday special.
Perfect.
Don't worry.
All right, y'all. Well, we'll see you next week, everybody.
All right.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Later.
See you later.